Hello and welcome back to the Best Reddit Videos channel. In this video we'll talk about when Redditors accidentally caught their spouse cheating horror stories. First story, this happened just 2 days ago. I was in Florida on vacation with my girlfriend of 6 years, our 4-year-old son and her family and a few of her friends. She'd been taking pictures down at the beach all afternoon on her phone. We got back to where we were staying at, and everyone was in the kitchen making dinner. I picked up her phone and opened it to send my family the pictures she had taken. As I'm scrolling for the thread, I see her ex-boyfriend's name. I open up the text and the first thing I see are explicit videos of themselves they had sent each other. I yelled, "What the heck is this?" Her mum turned toward me and asked what was wrong. I loudly proclaimed what I saw. She said she had gone out with some friends, gotten drunk, invited him out for a drink, and ended up taking coke all night. Then she got really drunk the next night and sent the videos. Claimed that was the only time she'd seen him. Yeah, so when she fell asleep, of course, I went through her phone again. She'd met him multiple times throughout the previous 2 months, and I found pictures of them all lovey-dovey on their dates. Her brother and dad were angry. I got out of there the next morning, ruined the vacation for pretty much everyone, and totally destroyed our family. So, did she tell the story about the nights out in front of the whole family? Boy, would that be awkward to say the least. Sorry to hear that though, man. Second story. Wife had been texting a lot and was very evasive when I inquired about it, though she smirked when she thought it was making me jealous. Yeah, she's that kind of person. Turns out she'd left her email logged into my phone, so I noticed that she had a weekend Airbnb trip to a place that was a state away. We were living in different states at the time, which seemed to be of the quiet romantic getaway type. Total occupancy 2 people. Well, I thought that was quite suspicious. So I monitored her Airbnb page, which was easy since we were friends on Airbnb. Figured that the owner might leave a comment about how great she was as a guest, which it turned out she did. Except the review went something like, "My wife's name and guy not named me were fantastic guests," and so on. Yeah, so anyone wants to guess what the conditional probability is of that weekend trip involving infidelity? Pretty sure it's high. Wife apparently panicked, asked Airbnb to remove the review, altered her name on the site, and then finally, having failed to get the review taken down, deleted her account. I eventually asked her about it during a counselling session, and she had a ready-made defence about how she'd meant to take the trip with another co-worker, but that person's car broke down, so Guy's name ended up tagging along since Guy's name was that co-worker's boyfriend and they all stayed together. But Guy's name signed the guest book, therefore a totally honest mistake. In hindsight, I'm pretty sure she was not telling the truth. We are still not married. Edit. Things got better in the sense that we were no longer married, and that I learned a lot from the experience. Like when your spouse gets angry and tells you she's going to have an affair. She's probably going to have an affair, even if she later says it was just an angry talk. This scares me. My wife has sometimes told me this, and I've told her to shut it because that would be the end of our marriage. I'm still worried that, as you say, if it comes out of the mouth so easily, it can be done rather easily. It's completely unacceptable for her to use that in a fight. Third story. Not me, but one of my best friends. His girlfriend snuck a guy into their 1-bedroom apartment whilst he was playing on the Xbox in the living room. I heard the argument through the mic after he heard the noise coming from the bedroom. He kicked her out and continued playing with us. To the people saying my friend deserved it because he is addicted to video games, I don't know where you got that from. He only plays when there is a bit of spare time. She is just a horrible person. After he caught them in the act and kicked her out, he came back onto the mic to tell us what had happened and to get off the game. We encouraged him to stay on and talk everything through with us. We were in different countries at the time and couldn't see him in person because we were worried. Their relationship has been a little rocky, but who would guess that someone would cheat, and especially in the next room? He is a great guy who did not deserve this to happen to him. He is now in a wonderful relationship with a great lady. What the hell, she isn't very bright. The same goes for the dude who snuck in. He is one thirsty dude. How did either one of them think that was going to go down? Lol. I sort of respect the guy who was cheated on. He managed to deal with it in the moment while not letting the team down instead of breaking down right there and then. That takes some serious mental fortitude. Fourth story. After a week of visiting friends in London, England, I flew back to Canada. I was supposed to do something with another group of friends when I got back, but plans fell through, and so I drove 4 hours home to the apartment we shared. She expected me to arrive at 6 p.m. I'd been up for 30 straight hours and got home at 6 a.m., wanting nothing more than to fall into bed. There was an extra set of feet attached to some D-bag when I walked in. There was only one more foot firmly attached to that D-bag. Fifth story. Not mine, but my brother. He was at a small party with 2 friends and his wife. He got tired and wanted to head home. His wife stayed behind. She gave him some lame excuse and begged to go off with him. It was all right, he thought. His best buddy was there and would make sure she got home safe for him. He got in his car, pulled out of the driveway. Before he could get down the block, he checked his rear view and noticed the room in the house they were in had gone all dark. He suspected for a time that something was up with her. They had a child together. She passed at the sitter. It was ruled sudden infant death syndrome, which is the unexplained death, mostly during sleep, of a seemingly less than a year-old healthy baby. She'd become distant in the months after the tragedy. He never really thought anything like what he was about to see was actually possible. It was more than a deep-seated feeling that something was wrong, but she never let him in, and they didn't work through the loss together. Seeing the lights out crystallized the situation for him, and he turned right around. The house was dark. The front door was still unlocked. He walked right in and to the only room with any light. He opened the door to find his best friend and another acquaintance double-teaming his girlfriend. He hasn't really been the same since. That's heartbreaking all around. I've never cheated or been with the other woman, and I'm not the type to. But logistically, if I was going to, I surely wouldn't cheat with my partner's best friend or the significant other of a friend. How does that conversation even begin? It's not a co-worker or a stranger who either doesn't know your partner exists or care about them. It's someone who loves the person being cheated on. The risk you come onto them and they tell is huge. Sixth story. Okay, so my ex was having computer problems and wanted to go onto Facebook on my phone. No worries, but I made her use Safari so I wouldn't have to log out of the app myself. Anyway, a couple of days later, I'm closing tabs on my phone and there is her Facebook profile still open. Well, I see she's chatting to her ex-boyfriend John. Turns out they had done the deed in our bed and were going out on a date soon. So, in the messages, he asks her, "Where's something nice?" I'm not the jealous type, so I leave it for a couple of days. Couple of days go by, and she wants us to make love. Well, we're kissing and whatnot. Then I whisper in her ear, "Don't forget John wants you to wear something nice on your Saturday date." The look of horror in her eyes was magical. I put my shirt on and start walking out as she's crying and saying how she's sorry. That was savage, but just so awesome. I mean, obviously being cheated on isn't, but you're a rock star here, dude. Well played. Seventh story. 2 weeks ago, I sent a message to a mutual friend asking to borrow a router. He didn't answer, but no problem, he lives nearby. I'll just stop by and grab it. I pull up to his house and started heading down the driveway. He has a long country driveway, so it's a few seconds before I see my car. I drive a company vehicle during the day, already there. My heart begins to sink. But they are friends and business partners, so maybe it's nothing. I got out of my van and look up to see the other guy shirtless in his bedroom. At this point, my heart is down in my stomach and I'm visibly shaking. I go in and immediately head upstairs. He is alone, now clothed. I say, "I came to borrow the router. Also, have you seen my wife? The car is here." He then proceeds to give me the worst improv I've ever heard. "Her? No, she was here at some point though." Whatever. I knew she was there, but I just wanted him to admit it. I go down, take the router, and head back to the van when I finally encounter my wife, topless, trying to sneak around the side of his house. And now, here I am. To all those wondering, I kept the router. It's a plunge router for woodworking. Also, to the people asking whether I had my suspicions beforehand, I did, but nothing very tangible, just a bad feeling. In hindsight, there was a lot I missed. You tend to miss the signs because you trust. The last part about trust drives home for me. I trusted my last ex explicitly. She questioned me on everything. "Why didn't you come to see me at work today on your way home?" "Because I was running late and had a class woman. Chill out." I even texted this to you. Granted, I did normally stop on my way to work or coming back, depending on when she was working, but still. Turns out she'd been cheating on me with not only her ex-husband, who she claims she stopped talking to, but also her ex-boyfriend, who she said she hated. But they worked together, so complete non-contact was near impossible. But 2 other co-workers as well, since her and I got together. I was livid because I thought we had a clear, open line of communication about what we expected from each other and in our relationship. We had just signed the lease on a new apartment together, after I'd moved half an hour from where I worked to be with her. Not even 12 hours after she broke up with me and admitted to all the cheating, she was back with her ex-husband. Took weeks to settle who kept the apartment. I won. And multiple cop calls for domestic disturbance. Thanks neighbours for looking out. She's gone out of my life and I'm finally moving on. 8th story. He changed his phone password. I left it for months until something just wasn't sitting right in my gut. I unlocked his phone with my thumb and I didn't even have to look. There was a messaging app open with a girl he was meeting the next day. I sent him to work without confronting him. I reset passwords through a long chain of emails to finally access the one associated with the messaging app. Lo and behold, he was sending approximately 10,000 emails per year for at least 4 years of our relationship. He was living a whole second life and hiding it from everyone. Our relationship had never appeared stronger, and we had been seeing a therapist to work on strengthening our communication for 8 months, once a week. Clearly, he was hiding his issues from the therapist as well. At the time, I felt like it ruined my life. I remember thinking very clearly, what did I do to deserve this? When I thought that, something inside of me just snapped. I calmly went and bought a giant coffee and cardboard boxes. I packed all his stuff up before he was home from work and changed our locks. Edit. I moved his things into storage and left the key along with the passive-aggressive note. He left me a short note apologising for what he did and owning up to it. He made a social media post telling everyone what he did and asked they leave him alone and support me. I saw him weeks later to talk, and he didn't try to hide what he'd done. He was very transparent. I loved him, and if he'd just come to me and admitted he had this problem, I would have helped him seek therapy. It wasn't just the subject matter so much that was the issue. An addiction is an addiction. It's the lying. This is very emotionally confusing for me. I can only imagine how you felt. I hope you're doing a lot better now, and it's not your fault. When someone truly loves you, they'll do whatever it takes to make you happy and be faithful to you. Don't blame yourself for another person's mistakes. 9th story. Not me, but my neighbour, who is also my best friend. He was having his 30th birthday party, and a bunch of people were over at his condo. He was intoxicated, a solid 7 out of 10 intoxicated, and spilled his beer on his shirt, so he decided to change shirts. He asked me to come with him because he wanted to ask me something in private, so I went with him upstairs. He opened his bedroom door, and we saw his boss going to town on his fiancée. I will never forget the look on his face, his fiancée's face, and his boss's face. The silence was broken up by, "This isn't what it looks like," routine. I stood there in amazement and was in a state of shock. His boss got dressed, and I walked him out of the party. The boss even grabbed a roadie before he left. My friend came downstairs, immediately chugged her beer and announced, "My now ex-fiancée was caught cheating with my boss, and I walked in on them with her legs behind her head. I didn't know she could do that. Usually she lays there like a starfish, let's get really messed up." He was kind of a mess for a while after that. Luckily, it was his condo. He owned and paid for both cars. His fiancée just quit her job to be a housewife. Talk of instant karma. Postscript. It took him a year to date again. I set him up with my co-worker. They are great together. The boss, well, he got what he deserved in the end. He was caught sleeping with the wife of the owner of the company he worked for, fired, and my buddy was promoted. His fiancée, well, she moved in with her parents again and had to give up her lavish lifestyle. Last time I saw her, she tried to flirt with me and be playful. I just shut that down, told her never to speak to me again. Girlfriends come and go, but best friends only come every once in a while. Edit. My friend never asked me the question he wanted to ask. Probably best he doesn't. On the subject of grabbing the roadie, I want to like that move so badly, but I just can't. Thanks for the comments and the laughs. Hopefully this story helps you in the future or present. Not sure how, but hope it does. 1. While that boss is quite the piece of crap, grabbing a beer on the way out is kind of a baller move. 2. As for you, you're a real one for setting your best friend up with someone nice after all that disaster happened to him. And finally, our last story. After a night of trying to keep up with my ex and her co-workers drinking, I call it a night. They stopped drinking a few minutes later, and the dog scratched at the door. I let the dog in and saw them making out on the couch. I watched for 10 minutes before they noticed me. They were taking their clothes off by then, so no denying it by then. I'm glad I knew. A tense conversation followed with the two of them. He left, very drunk on a very cold night. She got a ride to her aunt's place and begged me to go look for him in the cold. Dog is the hero of this story. Master, your girl is being a very naughty, naughty girl. Also, can I go outside? So there you have it. Thank you for listening till the end, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers!